Thanks, Pete. I want to start off by introducing one other person in the group who was my boss for the last 44 years, Dorothy in the back row. So I left my notes at home, sweetheart, so you're going to have to do this talk for the next 45 minutes. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about Tractor Supply Company. I'm going to talk to you about the history of the company, talk to you about the success factors, why the company's been successful, and also I'm going to share with you my thoughts about leadership. Leadership in business, leadership in life. I also want to introduce John Sarasulo here, he's been instrumental in a lot of things. But we got to start off with a quiz here. So this is a school, so quiz is very important. So a show of hands now. How many of you shop at Tractor Supply? Yeah. Okay. You all got to improve that. Okay. How many of you own a horse? 1, 2, 3. I love you. I love you. How many horses do you have?
Oh, we just have one for like working.
One? Who else?
We have 3, but we also board 5.
Oh, I love you even more. Now, who was the other one back here?
I have
2. I love you a little bit more than her. We look at business in terms of the lifetime value of a customer. Now, you all know what a horse is, don't you? A horse is a giant, expensive pet. And Tractor Supply is the pet store for horses. And we think about customers not in terms of this transaction. We think of customers in terms of the lifetime value of the customer. So for each of you, for each horse that you own, we know if you're a customer of ours, you're going to spend at least $10,000 during the life of that horse. So we're never going to do anything to offend you. We're going to do everything we possibly can to help you retain your shopping at our stores. We make long-term decisions in everything we do. When we think about, are we going to invest in new stores or are we going to invest in developing our people, the only answer is we're always going to invest in developing our people, because like almost any other business, it's all about the people. And when you develop good people, you can get great results. I'm going to tell you about the 2 key success factors that have made Tractor Supply such a great organization in a little bit. But first, I'd like to share with you a little history. Tractor Supply was founded in 1938 in Chicago. And no matter what some of my friends might say, I was not there. And it was founded by a man named Charles Schmidt, and Mr. Schmidt's goal was to become the Walmart of tractor parts. He was going to sell what John Deere would charge $50 for, he was going to sell for $30. He was going to become the Walmart of tractor parts. And by way of background, in the late 30s, there were 6 million farms in America. Tractors were very, very simple pieces of equipment, could be broken down, taken apart, rebuilt by almost anybody. So it was a real business. Over the next 30 years, Mr. Schmidt grew the company from 1 store to 2 stores to I don't know how many stores by the time he left. But the company grew. The company was listed on the New York Stock Exchange in the 1950s. As I understand it, the stock did very well. And then in 1969, Mr. Schmidt sold his stock to a larger company, and Tractor Supply became a subsidiary of a much larger company. Remember, 1938, there were 6 million farms in America. In 1969, there were 3 million farms in America. Plus, tractors, which used to be very, very simple to repair, had changed. They've become larger, more sophisticated, and they didn't break down nearly as often. So the tractor parts business had really fallen on hard times, as had many other parts of the business. So here we are 30 years later. The founder's gone. Tractor Supply is now a subsidiary of a much larger company. And over the next dozen years, Tractor Supply had 5 different presidents. And each president is trying to find a niche in the market that would really work. You know, the tractor parts business is going away, and other parts of the business were not doing well, and the number of farms in America was declining, as it still is today. And so each one of these presidents, as you might imagine, one president tries to go in this direction, another one in that direction, another one in that direction, and the company continued to flounder. Not fail, but flounder. 1981, the 5th of those presidents came on board, a man named Tom Hennessy. Tom's a big old Irishman, about a dozen years older than I was. He just did a few basic good things for the company very quickly. and the company began to return to some semblance of normality. As we were a subsidiary of another big company, we began to turn things around. He promoted me to the number 2 person in the company. I had been one of a series of vice presidents, and a year later, our parent company put us and 6 other subsidiaries up for sale. And as it turned out, at the end of the year, at the end of 1982, Tom and I and 3 other fellows bought the company on a shoestring with the help of some investors from New York City. And we ran it as a private company for a dozen years, and the company did very well. Tom finally retired, and I took over. The fellows that loaned us, a little interesting story here, the fellows that loaned us the money, the seed money to get the company started, we're from 3 guys from New York, and we got to be good friends with them. And at our board meetings, they were all 3 on the board, we'd present our financial report for the quarter, and we'd look at it for 10 or 15 minutes, and we'd talk about a few things, and then we'd get into a real discussion. And these 2 of these 3 fellows from New York had been the guys that ran the Woodstock Rock Festival. You all have heard from your parents about the Woodstock Rock Festival. Well, we had a board meeting that did nothing but discuss the Woodstock Rock Festival for half an hour or so. 1994, the company went public. Been public ever since. I retired in 2007. If you were sharp enough to buy one share of stock in 1994 when the company went public, you would have paid $20. There's a little math test here now. Today you'd have 16 shares selling at $70. How much is that? Anybody major in math here? It's $1,100 or something like that. So the company now is, this year it's 75 years old. You look back at the history, in 1981, the company had 100 stores. Today the company has 1,300 stores. The company did $100 million in 1981, did $5 billion last year. It's been a tremendous success record, and it's pretty consistent record. It's grown and it's grown and it's grown. So why has the company been so successful? Remember I told you originally the company was marketing to farmers. We were selling tractor parts and other products to farmers. So 1981 comes along, and our new president's there, Tom Hennessy, and we have a new management team, and we're buying the company, and we're doing some key things to understand the business and then to reshape it. First, we spent lots and lots of time in the stores. We were in our stores all the time. And in our stores, what we saw were lots of people, but they weren't farmers. You can kind of tell what a farmer looks like when he's in the store. And they were not farmers. They were people in blue jeans, and they're people in suits, and they're doctors and lawyers and teachers and factory workers, and they don't fit into a clearly defined bucket. But outside, you're out in the parking lot and look, and you see almost all the vehicles out there are pickup trucks. So who is that person? We were fortunate to be data rich. We had lots and lots of information. So in our data, we found that the products that related to production agriculture, tractor parts, sprayer equipment, all these other things that related to production agriculture, were either flat in sales or declining. And then there's this other bunch of products we were selling that kept on growing. Anything to do with pets. Pet food, cat food, toys, treats, collars, kennels, you name it was growing. Anything to do with horses was growing. Our work clothing was growing. Riding lawnmowers turned into our #1 category. We were selling welders and air compressors and truck toolboxes. And we finally came to the conclusion that there's a customer out there that we defined as a hobby farmer. We said, okay, we're going to now define this person as a hobby farmer. And a hobby farmer has some acreage, typically a full family unit, mother, father, and children, probably drives a pickup truck, not dependent on agriculture for a living. I say it always has dogs and cats, probably has some other animals, probably has an old tractor. And we changed the dynamics of the business from marketing to farmers to marketing to hobby farmers. And that change, that may sound like a subtle change, but it was a massive change. It changed the dynamics of the business. First, it changed where we put stores. Instead of stores in the middle of Iowa, you want half a dozen stores surrounding Charleston within 50 miles or so, because that's where the hobby farmers live. It changed, obviously, what products we carry. It changed what we advertised. It changed when we advertised it. It changed when our stores are open. We used to close at 4 or 5 o'clock. Now we're open till 7 or 8 o'clock. So many of our stores used to be closed on Sunday, opened on Sunday. So it changed the dynamics of the business when our competitors did not change. And from a competitive standpoint, at that point in the early 1980s, there were about 40 chains of stores like Tractor Supply Company. And today, most of those chains have gone away, and Tractor Supply has 3 times more stores than the next 5 competitors put together. Tremendous, tremendous, tremendous growth, because we identified the number one success factor, the first success factor, is we identified this different customer. And we made a massive shift in all of our strategies to market to this new customer. So that's success factor number one. The second success factor was building a powerful culture. We built a culture based on always doing the right thing. First, doing the right thing with your employees. Always doing the right thing with your employees. Second, doing the right thing with your customers. Always doing what's right for your customers. And again, remember I said earlier, we take a long-term view of everything. Third, building good working partnerships with our business partners, who are primarily merchandise suppliers. It's not about beating them up about price. It's about the whole issue of how you work with a supplier. It's about how they deliver, how the product is packaged, how you teach your employees to sell it, how the instructions work, does it fit on the truck, does it get through the distribution center, is it available on time, all these other issues. We built tremendous partnerships. Do the right thing with our people, our customers, our business partners, and in the community. And we move forward from that point, building this culture of always doing the right thing. We're very focused on our mission and our values. Like any company, we have a mission statement and a value structure, and every company has that, and it's in the handbooks, and sometimes it's on the walls, and that's true at Tractor Supply Company. It's in the handbooks, it's on the walls, it's also part of every discussion, part of every meeting, part of what we do, part of what we're proud of, part of what we share. It's everywhere, including in our hearts. We really believe in our mission, we really believe in our values, and so much so that we have cards we carry with us, and you can go into most any store and talk to most any store manager, maybe even the salespeople, and they'll have some of these cards and be proud to share with you our mission. Our mission starts off to work hard, have fun, and make money. Now, where did you ever hear of a company whose mission says have fun? We work hard, it's the first part of it, have a great work ethic in the company, but we believe in having fun. Nearly 90% of our employees work in the stores, and they're dealing with customers. So you want your employees to be feeling good about life. So we try to create an environment where people are having fun. And then we believe in making money, like everybody believes in making money, but ours starts off with incentive programs for our salespeople and our store managers, and throughout the organization, that's based on your contribution to the company. Stores have monthly sales bonus plans, store managers have annual plans, and it's all about the better we do taking care of our customer, the more product we sell, the better we take care of those customers, the better everybody does. And it's about the whole organization. And I could tell you, when I was the CEO, my bonus was directly related to how the rest of the bonuses were. And if everybody in the stores was making a lot of money, I was. And if the people in the stores were not, I was not. It's a team effort. As an organization, we're committed to ethics, doing the right thing. It's the number one value. Always do the right thing and always encourage others to do the right, honest, and ethical things. We really believe in ethics. And one of the ways you can translate that is in inventory shrinkage. Inventory shrinkage is what you can't account for one reason or another, including and particularly in retailing theft. And our shrinkage is one of the lowest among major retailers. And then we believed in education, believed in teaching our people. We worked very hard first on the recruiting process, and then we worked very hard on the education process. We felt that if we found good people, we primarily recruited in our customer base, We found good people, and then we would teach them how to be good leaders. They would stay with us and do a good job. So we have 3 levels of education in the company. We call it Tractor Supply University, or Tractor U as they call it today. There's a training level for store managers, entry-level supervisors. There's a training program for district managers and middle managers in the company. And then there's an executive development program. And I'll just give you a little snippet of what it takes to become a store manager with us. There's a binder in the store, a training binder that walks you through how to receive a truck and how to merchandise this and how to deal with a customer and how to solve this problem and that problem. It's all about the mechanical things you have to do. And you would be assigned to a store where there is a certified teacher. Only a few of our stores, or a handful of ours, about 1 out of 10, is certified to teach. And we compensate that store manager for being a teacher. So you got to go through this whole manual, and you got to take tests and checked off and so on. But before you can finally run a store, you have to come into Nashville, which is where we're headquartered, and you have to spend a week in a class. And the class is taught primarily by senior executives. And the classes are all about strategy, values, how to take care of people, performance evaluations, difficult situations, community relations. And people like me would spend 6, 8, 10, 12 hours that week in the teaching process. And then we took all these 25 or 30 potential store managers out to dinner with us on Thursday night, and they got to know every senior executive. So by the time they left on Friday, whether they're running a store around the corner or 1,000 miles away, they never had to look over their shoulder. They knew the people that ran the company. They knew what the values are, and they knew what they could do. They understood the framework. And we really believe in empowering our people, pushing. For those of you who are going to be in leadership roles, remember these words: push decision-making as far down the ladder as you can. Push decision-making as far down the ladder as you can, which is what we did. There's a sign that hangs in every Tractor Supply store. It says satisfaction guaranteed, which every retailer in the world says. It's right over the checkouts. But underneath the word satisfaction guaranteed are the magic words that say every team member has the authority to do whatever it takes. That means that we trust you. So if you work for the company, you look up there at the sign and say, hey, they trust me. So you come into the store and you have a problem, you can say, yes, sir, Mr. Jones, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it right for you, and simply go about doing it. That's how you develop, one of the ways you develop long-term customer relations. Tried to be effective leaders in everything we did. We tried to model the right behavior. We spent lots of time, as I said earlier, lots of time in the stores, lots of time in our distribution centers, listening, always listening, because the people closest to the work know the most about it. And the more you listen to the people who are doing the work, the better the decisions you make, the better the direction you give. I was with the company for 30 years. About half of my work weeks, maybe even more than half my work weeks, went something like this. Left town on Monday afternoon, had with me a regional operating vice president in charge of 120 stores, and then I had 1 or 2 other people with me. At random, I picked somebody from the buying office, somebody from marketing, somebody from IT, somebody from HR, somebody from accounting. And we'd all go somewhere. We'd usually fly, and we'd meet up with a district manager, and we'd spend Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday visiting our stores. We'd spend probably 2 hours in each store, and we'd chat with every employee, and we'd listen to every employee's concerns and observe what's going on, sometimes talk to customers. And you're saying to yourself now, well, when a CEO shows up in a store, no hourly employee is going to talk to the CEO. And I walk into a store and they say, somebody says, oh, hello, Mr. Scarlett. I said, no, the name's Joe. Joe. Oh, yes, Mr. Scarlett. No, it's Joe. I said, what part of the store do you take care of? And let's say they say, we take care of the pet section of the store. Well, come on, let's take a walk, just you and me. We go over to the pet section, we start walking down the aisle, and I'll say, well, Charlie, how's this new pet food selling? And he'd look at me and say, this ain't selling worth a flip. It's just not the right thing. Or it's selling like crazy and we can't get enough of it. Or our customers want this in 40-pound bags instead of 20-pound bags. And 2 minutes into this conversation, he and I are best buddies. And People will talk if you simply ask questions and listen carefully and never shoot the messenger. Somebody gives you bad news, somebody gives you something you don't like, you just say, anytime anybody gives you feedback, the only response you should have as a leader is thank you. You're collecting the feedback. We spent lots of times in the stores talking to people, listening to people. That way, you can make the very best possible decision. We tried to model the right behavior. When I say words, only because I'm retired, they're still doing exactly the same thing. We wanted to be a very frugal company. Not necessarily cheap, but frugal. And there is a difference. And so we traveled Southwest, or coach if we were on another airline. We stayed in the Hampton Inn. We had lunch at Subway. We had dinner at the Olive Garden. We modeled the behavior we expected. So those are the two key success factors. The first success factor was finding this different customer, and the second success factor was building a culture based on always doing the right thing. Always doing the right thing with your people in the community, with your customers, with your business partners, always doing the right thing. So, great strategy, great culture, 100 stores to 1,300 stores. I've been in business for 50 years. I've been studying leadership for 50 years. I've been in leadership roles for 50 years of one sort or another. And I want to now share with you some thoughts about leadership. And principles that they apply across the board. I'll give you four key topics on leadership. First, never compromise your principles. Never compromise your ethics. There is no upside into doing bad things. You're going to get caught. The bad guys all get caught. And they mostly get caught quickly. A few of them, like Bernie Madoff, can get away with it for a while, but even a scoundrel like him, he's now 60 years old or something like that, and he's going to die in prison. The bad guys all get caught, so don't ever compromise your principles. And I've seen that happen over and over again in our history. Even in our company, where we were adamant about the fact that there is no tolerance for a lack of ethics, we, in two different situations, released vice presidents in my 30 years with the company. So the rules pertain to everybody throughout. Okay, that's number one. Number two, surround yourself with great people. The most important decisions you ever make as a leader is the selection of the people you surround yourself with. Most important decisions are the selection of the people you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with stars, you can be a star. And if you surround yourself with turkeys, you're going to get sliced up for Thanksgiving. And the recruiting process is very difficult. You know, it's not so simple. So-and-so, great person for the job, hire him, promote him. You may or may not be making a good decision. So the more input you get into those decisions, the more likely you are to make a good decision. So the more feedback you get, the more people you have in the interviewing process, the more you dig into things, and the more likely you're going to do a good job. I want to share with you a story about not doing the right thing, a lesson that I learned from not listening to the right people. We were recruiting for a senior executive. I didn't think we had the talent in-house, so we were recruiting outside, and we narrowed it down, and a bunch of my compatriots in the company, we'd all done the interviewing, and we narrowed it down to this one person, and I should have realized that my compatriots were not as enthusiastic as they should be about this person, but I didn't. And so we went to do the very final thing is what we call the Dorothy test. Now, Dorothy's my wife. And the Dorothy test is we're going to take this fella and his wife out to dinner and a couple days later we're going to extend an offer. So we take them out for dinner, and we have this nice dinner, and they went on their way. I'm driving home, and Dorothy gets one of these things in the ribs, and she said, "Joe, I don't feel right about this. I don't feel right." I said, "Well, tell me why. Can you be specific? What are you concerned about?" And she couldn't really be specific. She just didn't feel right about the thing. So what do you think I did? What?
You didn't listen.
Who said that? I did not listen. I should know better after, at that time, 30 years or whatever it is. I didn't listen, so I hired this guy, and 2 weeks later, I knew that I'd made a terrible mistake. And then I procrastinated about doing anything about it for a long time, too, which is even worse. Because what happens is in situations like that, we think, well, I know I can improve him. I know I can coach him. I know I can make him better. I know I can get him up to the standard we want, when in fact, I really knew that we couldn't. So the most important decisions are people decisions, whether you're promoting, whether you're hiring from the outside. And particularly if you're hiring from the outside, you can always interview somebody else. Don't panic. Panic hiring can get you in a lot of trouble. Panic promoting can get you in a lot of trouble. So, number one leadership principle is don't ever compromise your principles. Second is surround yourself with great people. When I look back upon my career, the most important things I did was surround myself with great people. And I'll tell you a little bit later about what kind of decisions I made as a CEO. Okay, third, set clear direction. Everybody wants to know where you're going. Talk about it. Set clear direction for your organization, whatever it is. Be clear, unmistakable. I'd like to share another story with you. 1990, I was president but not CEO. We were growing the company, doing nicely. And I decided we had really not done a good job of painting a thorough picture about where the company was going. We'd done it in bits and pieces. And so I gave a speech to the company, what I called the vision for the future of the organization. And what I had done is I had gone to and studied to make sure I understood exactly what we were doing in operations and marketing and merchandising and logistics and IT and accounting and all the rest of the different functions. And I delivered this talk to the group, to each of the leadership groups in the company. And I delivered it repeatedly over the years. And the only thing that was different in my talk, the only thing that was new and different, was I said, and we're going to double the size of the company over the next 5 years, from 200 million to 400 million. And it was interesting. I gave that talk, and I didn't get a lot of feedback to start with, but you could see and feel that all of a sudden Charlie was working with Mary, and Freddie was working with Sally, and the silos in the company were beginning to come down. And I kept delivering the talk repeatedly, and I kept, then all of a sudden you'd begin to hear things, well, hey, Joe, let me tell you about what I did over here to get this done. Let me tell you how we're working together in this section. People began to really pull together because I was painting a very, very clear picture of where the company was going. Made all the difference in the world. It's about setting clear direction. And the more people know, the more they're going to help you get where you want to go. So what happened 5 years later? We went from 200 million, not to 400 million, but to 450 million. It was a tremendous success. It's about communication. It's about setting clear direction. So never compromise your principles. Surround yourself with stars. Set clear direction. Finally, build a teamwork environment. If you're a leader, you can build a teamwork environment. I talked about listening in the stores, time on the road, listening to the people on the front lines. Listen everywhere. I used to bounce around our headquarters. Actually, our headquarters was called the Store Support Center, because we made sure everybody there knew that your job in the support center is to support the stores, because profits are made when customers give you money. So our whole mission at the headquarters was to support the stores and help them do well. And we did that repeatedly. We believe in keeping no secrets. Good leaders keep no secrets. Just think about that. If you're working for a boss who's keeping secrets from you, do you trust him? Probably not. But if you share everything, people trust you. And when they understand what you're talking about, you don't keep secrets. Everybody works together, heads in the same direction. Building teamwork. Let's try this again. How many of you have a dog? You ought to be buying your dog food at Tractor Supply. When a dog does a trick, what do? You give him a treat, right? When a human being does a good job, what do? Give him a pizza or something? No. Pat him on the back. Number one motivator of people's recognition. Somebody does something good, pat him on the back. Makes all the difference in the world. Recognition is the number one motivator of people. Somebody does something really good, celebrate the success. It doesn't take, it doesn't take half a minute to say, hey, John, good job today. See you tomorrow. And that does wonders for people's self-esteem. So as I look back on what I did as a CEO, so I never compromised our ethics, surrounded myself with the best possible people, set clear direction repeatedly. And one of the things I learned over the years is you've got to keep repeating messages. Someday you'll be raising children, you got to keep saying the same thing over and over again. Well, adults are no different. You got to keep saying the same thing over and over again. And fourth, of course, is building a teamwork environment. So as a CEO, I'll tell you something that will probably surprise you. I made very few decisions. I made very few decisions. And you probably think CEOs make decisions all day long. The only decisions I made were first strategic decisions, big picture, high-level decisions. And those strategic decisions were made with the input of as many key people as needed to be involved in the thing. So I was never making those decisions in the dark. It was always with the help of others. So that's number one. The second big picture decision I was making were high-level personnel decisions, which I also made with the input of lots of other people, including Dorothy. So those are high-level strategic decisions, high-level personnel decisions. I also like to help decide where we're going for lunch. But other than that, I push decision-making down the level. When you have good people working for you, they understand where we're going, and you built a good environment for communications that everybody can work together, you don't have to make big decisions because people are making them for you. And then, as a leader, and it doesn't care where you are, anywhere in the organization, when you're pushing decision-making down, you then have the time and the wherewithal to look over the hill and around the corner, which is what you should be doing as a leader, knowing where you're going next. So those are my 4 thoughts on leadership. Now let me give you 2 thoughts on personal leadership. And this probably will be more elementary for you than it is when I'm talking to business leaders, but the question I ask everybody that works for me is, what is your learning agenda? What is your learning agenda? And you all have one preset for you here, but so often I see in business, but well, I got the job now and I don't have to learn anymore. That's baloney. You have to keep learning in life because other people are, and if you learn more and faster, you're going to get yourself ahead of the other person. And if you're not learning at all, they're going to run by you. So everybody's got to have a learning agenda. And it will be different things in different situations, but you've always got to be learning. I want to share a story with you. 1982, a fellow working in our accounting department, Frank Jaski, came flying into my office. He'd ripped a book review out of the Wall Street Journal. What I should have said to him is, why are you reading the Wall Street Journal on the job? But I didn't think about that time. I was reading this book review. And the book review was about a book called In Search of Excellence. I'll give you a little history lesson here. This is 1982. During the 1970s, the Japanese industrial machine was just on fire. They were growing faster than who knows what, and we all felt that someday the Japanese industrial machine will take over the world. And this book, In Search of Excellence, written by Tom Peters and Bob Waterman, was about excellent companies in America. Companies had really done great things, and studying the common traits of the excellent companies in America. And it changed my thinking, and millions of other business people too, our thinking about how good America is and what things that we all can learn from that study that will help us run better businesses. And it put me on a path to learning that has not stopped. I read books all the time, and I'm always trying to learn more. And I'm up there in years and mostly retired, but I can continue to learn. One little tip I learned after a while is, once you read a book by an author, don't read the second book. Find a new author, because you'll probably be learning more. Network. Always. What I like to say to business people is, if you're sitting behind your desk, brown bagging it for lunch every day, you're missing a huge opportunity to be having lunch with somebody else in the organization, or somebody in a competitor, or some friend of yours, or anything other than sitting behind your desk eating the lunch by yourself every day. Get out there and learn. Lunch is a great opportunity to chat with people and meet people. And most of them you won't learn anything, but sometimes you may pick up a nugget that can change your life or change your career. Get out there and network. In my last 20 years in business, I absolutely know that I learned more by networking than any other single source. And I'll tell you precisely what I did, or one of the most important things. I was on the board of the Retail Industry Leaders Association, which is the biggest association of retailers in the country. And it consisted of people like Walmart and Target and Home Depot and Lowe's and so on. And Tractor Supply was one of the smaller companies in the group. But we met 2 or 3 times a year, and the CEOs of the company would meet. And I got to sit around a table with 25 or 30 CEOs of other retail companies. And you know, some of them are some pretty big gorillas. And so I get to benchmark myself. I get to benchmark myself against Walmart and Home Depot and Lowe's and so on. And you know, you think to yourself, boy, I got a long way to go to catch up with him or her, and I got a long way to go. You know something? I'm not so bad. We're much better than they are in that. So I benchmark myself and benchmark my company. Tremendous education. Networking is everything. Stay in touch. Collect business cards. Or today you guys slap phones together somehow. And somebody tried to get me to do that the other day and I was lost. But just keep track of people. You never know when you never know when contacts can help, and contacts can make a difference. If I hadn't stayed in touch with John Sarasula, we wouldn't be here today. Networking is everything. Don't lose track of people. One final thought about developing yourself. If you want to be a leader at a high level anywhere in life, you have to be able to speak in public. You have to be able to stand up and speak in front of a group. And I know what it's like. It's terrifying. I used to be terrified to stand up in front of a group. And your knees are knocking and you're worried. You think everybody in the group thinks you're an idiot and so on. But it's like any other skill in life. The more you do of it, the better you'll get at it. So just take every opportunity you can to speak in public. And you know, when you think about getting into business, you can stand up in front of 6 or 10 or 20 or 50 people and deliver an effective message. People look up there and say, wow, that's a leader. They will, in their own mind, put you on a different pedestal. So, on a personal basis, develop yourself. And now on a even a little bit more personal basis, take time to really think. Take time to really think. And I want to challenge you to do something. 2 or 3 times a year, go somewhere with a notepad and no telephone, no communications devices, no people. Those of you who have a dog, you can take your dog with you. And just go somewhere where you're alone and close your eyes and just try to think about the future. And by that I don't mean next week or next month, 3 months, 6 months down the road, a year down the road. I know at your age it's probably hard to look too far down the road, but think about the future. And what I tell business people is, first, think about your own skill base. Think about what you're doing. Think about in your business unit, what are you doing? What do you have to prepare for the future? What do you have to prepare for what's going to happen next year when we do an acquisition? Think about your personal performance and your personal business unit if you have one. And many times you're going to write something down there. You're going to write something that could be life-changing because you're now thinking someplace alone and there's no distraction. And you got to shut your radio off too, by the way. Second, think about your career. This may be very apropos for you all. You know, think about your career. What am I doing to get where I want to go? Have I counseled with the right people? Now, if you're employed, the best person to talk to is probably your boss. But if you're not working, you might think to yourself, well, I'm not sure what I want to do in life. I need to get out and talk to some people. I need to learn. Maybe I need to get a part-time job somewhere. Maybe I need to just ask people, just begin to talk. But don't just let your career happen. Think about it. Think about it long term. Think about what you really want to do. How am I going to get there? What skills do I need? Am I building those skills properly? Just think about that long term. And finally, and most importantly, give some thought to how am I doing with my family and my personal relationships? Have I been nice to my sister? Did I holler at my mother? Think about those personal relationships and think about them in the long term too. When I look back on life, I was going through my career, running like mad, and my dad was in New Jersey, and I was in Tennessee. I saw him from time to time, but when I reflect back today, I wish I had taken the time to go spend more time with him while I could. He was a great business guy and knew an awful lot. So I've shared with you some thoughts about leadership. Go back again. Never compromise your ethics. Surround yourself with stars. Set clear direction, and build a networking environment. And then have a learning agenda and do some long-term thinking. And I know that young people have a hard time doing long-term thinking sometimes, but when you're alone with a notepad and nothing else around, and you do some deep thinking, you might come up with some different ideas or some insightful ideas about the future for you. Now, I meant to tell you this when we came in here. When you leave here tonight, this afternoon, there's a booth outside, and there's a friend of mine, Charlie's in the booth. And the three of you who had horses don't have to worry about this, but the rest of you, Charlie out there will show you how you can purchase a horse, how we can give you your first load of feed, and we can even finance the horse for you. Remember, if you have a horse, you're going to spend $10,000 with us, and that makes us very, very happy. So you all have been very attentive. Thank you all very much, and I wish you all a wild success in your career. Thanks.
We have plenty of time for Q&A, so if anybody has any questions for Scarlett, I'm sure we're ready and happy to answer.
Yes.
So I have two questions, and one of them seems like a pretty standard interview question, but I'd really like to know if you could describe one of the lowest or lower points of your professional career and how you overcame it.
Question is, can I describe one of the lower points of my professional career and how I overcame it? There are a couple of different ones. One is when I first moved to Tennessee, I was working for the fourth of those 5 presidents I was talking about, and I realized along the way that he was really a jerk and didn't know what he was doing. And so here I am, 1,000 miles away from home. The 1980, the economy's in the tank. It's hard to find a job, and I was distraught and worried, and what I did was essentially nothing. I kept my resume up. I got a few interviews, but not many, because we had like 12% unemployment then, and things just worked out well when he got fired, and I sort of, once I knew he was going to get fired, I felt really good. One of the other difficult times was the story I told you about with hiring the wrong executive. I've made some other personnel bad mistakes along the way, but not as bad as that particular one. No matter where you are, you're going to get bad things are going to happen to you from time to time. That somebody will quit that you don't expect to, or somebody will be stealing from you that you didn't expect to, or you'll miss your sales plan, or bad things will happen. You just got to dust yourself off and come back at it. However, I tell you one other story. The previous company I worked for in New Jersey was a discount store chain, and I worked there for 15 years, and it was on a high growth mode for a while. And in that case, although the basic business was solid, the leadership was corrupt. The founders, one founder was gone, the other one died, and the next group of managers took over, and they were corrupt, they were dishonest, immoral, and they progressively were sort of looting the company. That may be a little bit of a strong word, but they were really destroying the company, and I saw it coming, and I realized that this business is not going to be around forever, and I made a decision. I've got to get out of here, and I did. So I can probably tell you about 10 more too, but what's the next question?
Well, so you say that fun is one of the parts of your mission statement.
Right.
And in the spirit of April Fool's Day, I was wondering if you guys had any fun April Fool's Day, either pranks around the office or maybe in one of the tractor stores.
Well, I've been retired for 6 or 7 years. Pranks were a regular thing at our company. I mean, and didn't have to wait till April Fool's Day. We believed in having fun all the time. I'll tell you one little pranky thing that happened. We were having a sales meeting back in the probably probably the early 1990s. We were in Cincinnati. There were probably 200 store managers in the room. It was after dinner. It was a ballroom. We had a stage up here, and we are handing out awards for the biggest sales improvement and the biggest profit improvement and those kinds of things. And I'm up on stage, and we're all dressed. It was before casual last time. We're dressed and we're wearing suits, you know. And all of a sudden, this loud noise comes from the back of the room, and then another loud noise comes. And what is going on back there? And then we realized that a bunch of these guys had gone out and bought air horns, and they brought air horns into the meeting, and it was wild. And we had a choice there. We could clamp down on it and stop it, or not, and we did not. And from that point on, every year at the annual sales meeting, people were bringing air horns. The one time we had to clamp down was a couple of guys out in Kansas got an air horn off a Union Pacific diesel. And they're going around this big ballroom, and they've got an air compressor on wheels behind it. And well, we figured people were going to lose their hearing if we kept doing that, so we knocked that off. So. But it's important. Wherever you are in life, it's important to enjoy what you're doing. Now, not every work day is going to be an enjoyable work day, but you ought to be. If you're not happy doing what you're doing, move on. And that's something that we said to our people all the time. If you're not happy working here, go somewhere else. And when you create that environment, people do go somewhere else if they don't, or they get happy. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about running your leadership institute, please?
I talked to you about the educational programs at Tractor Supply. When I announced that when I stepped down as a CEO, but I was still there as a chairman, a number of the business leaders in the community came to me and said, hey, Joe, we know what a great job you all have been doing in developing leaders in the company. How about doing the same thing in the community? So after the little arm twisting by some friends of mine, I contacted 50 CEOs of the largest companies in Middle Tennessee, and 35 of them showed up to sit down with us in small groups, 3 or 4 or 5 at a time, and we talked about leadership. What do you need to develop your key people that you're not currently doing? And it was interesting. These people came from healthcare and manufacturing and retailing and all sorts of different industries. But what they said was pretty much the same, and it all had to do with interpersonal skills. They didn't want any education in terms of strategy or finance or marketing or any of that stuff, but they need to develop their leaders are interpersonal skills. And all the things I was talking about before, handling difficult conversations, hiring good people, building teamwork, and we listened and listened and listened and put together an executive development program that lasts for a year. It's a total of 18 class days, outside instructors teaching everything from public speaking to coaching to handling difficult conversations, even to, at one point we have a protocol officer come in and spend 6 hours teaching us how to work a cocktail party, for example, and how to conduct yourself, and how women should dress in business, how men should dress, how women should conduct themselves in business compared to men. In most cases, they should conduct themselves exactly the same way. And all sorts of these different skills that you need to be successful, but they're all personal skills. And then we have 6 two-day follow-up sessions spread out over the course of a year. And we start off those sessions. Each one of the students will stand up in front of the group. Oh, by the way, a student is typically 35 to 50-year-old VP or on the path to being a VP, something like that. And they each stand up in front of the room and they say, here's how I've changed as a leader since the last time we were together. And it's just interesting when you have continual follow-up over a long period of time, how dramatically these people are changing in their skills. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. And we track them, and to this day, we've had hundreds and hundreds of graduates, and many of them have gotten promoted to much, much higher positions. And surprisingly few have changed companies. As a matter of fact, John Sarasulo has probably spent 10 or 12 to our executive class, and all but one are still at your company, and several have gotten promoted. I learned a lot in business, but I didn't have the benefit of going to schools like that. I learned by running into a brick wall and getting up and figuring out not to do that stupid thing again. One of the things I learned through a mentor and through practical experiences, and the younger you are, the more difficult this is. You get wound up, you get passionate about something, and you start to say things you shouldn't say. And what I learned is just shut up. When you get to that situation, shut up, close your book, walk out of the room, take a walk somewhere. I had a particular path I used to take when something like that would happen. I'd walk out the front door and I'd walk down the street and I'd be back 20 minutes later and it'd be a whole different attitude about things. Say one other little tip. When somebody calls you or sends you an email and you're get wound up about it, and you're upset about it, you figure out what your response is, but don't send it. Put it in your draft file or put it in your head somewhere, write it down. Don't respond that day because you're emotional and you're wound up. The next morning you get up and you say, okay, now I'll respond, and I guarantee that you'll respond with less emotion and a lot more facts, or maybe not at all. Long answer to a short question. What else you want to know? No. What other questions are there? You should never ask, are there any questions? You should say, what questions are there? I learned that somewhere too.
Can you tell us how you balance empowering employees versus checking up on them and making sure they're doing what's right?
How do you balance empowering employees with checking up on them? If you were, let's go to running a store. You're a store manager, and you've been through the schools. You met all the senior people in the company. You understand the values. You understand very clearly what our value structure is and what our mission is. And we've empowered you to run the store, and you get a report card. You get a sales report card every day. You get a profit report card every month. Our employees have the option to speak up if they don't like you with an 800 number and all kinds of different ways to speak up. And we judge you on your performance. You're turning in good sales and profit numbers. Your employee turnover is low. Everything's going good. We love you. We don't think we have to check up much on you. You have a district manager that drops in your store, if you're a really good manager, once a month maybe even less, because he or she's putting time in where the issues exist. And you as a manager are responsible for developing and supervising your people. And we teach you to treat your people the same way we treat you. Trust them. They're very powerful words to say, I trust you. And when you do that, people will sit up and they will do things they might not do otherwise. If they think you're checking on them, they're going to work to do what they think they're going to be checked on, as opposed to trying to talk to them about the big picture, which is taking care of the customer in our case. So you shouldn't be in a situation where you're checking. If you are, something isn't right in my opinion, although some businesses are different than others.
Hire the wrong person already.
Very, very possibly. There's certain technical industries where checking is very important, but retailing isn't one of them. What other questions?
I've got one. I'll take the prerogative. So, I want to go back to your mission statement here and this idea of working hard, having fun, and making money, right? And so often we hear about things like social responsibility in corporations and so forth like this, right? And I want to know, how is it that you said things to me that make sense, but I want to talk to this audience about how the fact that you can, in fact, take care of your employees, take care of your customers, and make money, that these things are not at odds with each other. And I was wondering if you might just talk to that for a minute, that profitability is not, these things are not mutually exclusive.
They all come together. If you have to have a good core business. But once you have a good core business, your people are what make you successful. Hire good people, treat them well, they'll produce good results for you, and share with them a portion of their contribution. That's a basic tenet of ours. You know, the better the store does, the more money you make. Interesting example. I mean, this is the way we run the business. Every store has a financial plan for the year broken down into 12 buckets, and every month there's a sales goal. And these numbers are not secret. They're posted in a break room every day. They're on the computer in the store. And if your plan is to make X, if you make X plus something, everybody in the store gets a bonus. We throw a bunch of money into a pool, and if you represent 10% of the payroll, you get 10% of the pool. So you as a team in the store are all working together. And if I'm on the team and I'm lollygagging around and I could be out selling a riding lawnmower, you're going to get and kick my butt and say, get moving. So it creates a teamwork environment because we believe in sharing We want you to do well financially, and we want you to do well for the company. I don't think they're in conflict at all. And companies who treat their employees poorly, unless they have some special niche in the market, sooner or later will pay the price for that. What other questions?
I have a question about this example you told about the hiring failure. But what were the strengths of this person that misleaded you to hire him? The
I'm
strengths of this person.
The person
that
had
misleaded
strength?
you.
His
Mhm.
strength,
Was he educated highly or?
his strength was probably in selling himself. And he said a lot of things, and I didn't realize how arrogant he was. He was selling himself to me, and I didn't realize that he had an ego such that he couldn't relate to. You took him into a store and he would talk down to people in the store, and you couldn't change that. And I should have been smart enough to realize that, and I wasn't smart enough to realize that. Let me ask you a question. Can I do a little teaching here for a second? Okay, you all know what's happened to General Motors recently? General Motors is recalling, I don't know how many millions of cars for defects, in some cases that have caused death. And now they're in Washington trying to explain it away right now. So my question for you is, how can that happen? Or maybe the question is, if you were running General Motors, what would you have done as a leader to create an environment where that kind of thing could not happen? Don't shoot the messenger. Okay, that's somebody gives you bad news, you say, what? Thank you. Let's go to work on it. What else? Come on, let's go. You guys are not this shy when you
You have to confront the facts.
can't see with my glasses on. Who's talking? Confront the facts.
Yeah.
Confront the facts, right? Bigger picture than that. That's very important. Bigger picture than that.
I think it's almost more important on where they go from now. They might not have noticed an issue then, but now that they know it's an issue, I think it's more important where they go from here.
Where they go from here. Where they go from here is very important. Okay, if you were running a company, if you were Mary, what's her name?
Mary Barra.
Yeah, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do organizationally to prevent that from happening in the future?
You have to set that corporate culture of, again, like don't shoot the messenger and provide those incentives that everyone wants to do well, to make the best product, get to set that. Instead of we want this profit percentage, it's we want this product quality.
You're establishing a value of quality over a value of profit. Now, this is a history of bad management, of inattentive management, just doing the wrong things. I would take it even a little bit higher level to that. I think, and this is true in our company, I think that the leader of the company should always be talking about a no tolerance for lack of ethics, talking about we are committed to doing the right thing in every case. And if we were doing that for the last 50 years, you would create an environment where, in General Motors, where, among other things, there'd probably be a lot more trust between union and management, but you also would not have had this happen because people would know that we as a company want to do the right thing. And instead, what happened is a bunch of, some people have died as a result of a lack of a commitment to ethics and an inattention to doing what's there. I really feel sorry for Mary, whatever her last name is. She's in a hot burner, and she hadn't anything to do with it. She'd been disconnected for a long time. Thank you all very much. Good luck to you.